In general terms, a digital twin involves two entities. One is the real person, specifically you in this picture, and the twin, the digital twin, is the computer-based model or simulation. So the expectation is to make those two so closely connected that you can exchange information between them to improve the model that's running in the computer, and by the same token provide outputs that are predictions into the future from the model that you can use to anticipate medical scenarios on the real you. So my name is Peter Coveney. I'm the director of the Centre for Computational Science at University College London. What we do in general is advance science through the use of computers, all forms of information technology, and that has led us into the exciting area of biotechnology and biomedicine. I've written a book about it called Virtual You, which was published in March 2023, and that's for the general reader to understand these exciting new developments. The important thing to recognize is that we're only at the very beginning of this. In a certain sense, it's an agenda for how to do medicine in the future, making it more scientific by really understanding the processes that go on in our body. And there are many scales. The word is multi-scale representations of the human body, like physiology is divided into hierarchies. And at one level you can have molecular issues, the genome, and the upper level you might be dealing with the whole physiology of the human body, and then you might be talking about collections of them and populations, which are relevant for infectious diseases, and indeed what we call in silico or computer-based clinical trials. So it's not the case today that we need to bring in the entire virtual version of you or me before we can start doing interesting things. My virtual avatar won't come in and replace me during the course of this interview. What we're able to do is take parts of our body which we know and understand better and turn them into this form of digital twin that becomes a virtuous circle in being able to treat diseases by understanding how they behave and being able to take actions to mitigate or prevent things getting out of control. The more we can integrate parts of medicine together, the more interesting it's going to become, because ultimately we are one entity and our bodies respond in a holistic way. But modern medicine doesn't treat diseases in anything like a holistic way. We have different diseases which we treat separately, which ultimately can have crosstalk, and a treatment for one can damage your situation with respect to some other part of your body. But at the moment we have these individual cases, we can build models of how they work in silico and do those treatments for the prediction. Let's say in a cancer case or in an infectious disease case, which drug to administer to you rather than the average patient that's based on a lot of general information on patients but won't work for you. We use computers today to model the weather developments globally, and they're very complicated, but we can make accurate predictions of weather for the next few days on a computer. We can't predict climate change as effectively, that's much more long term, but we can use similar models and get more and different types of data to be able to predict that. And in the same way, we want to predict things for the short term, where you have a patient to treat up front because they've got a problem, and then there's the life course, health and well-being and wellness states, which we would like to keep under control, because if you understand where it's going, you have the opportunity to preemptively avoid scenarios which otherwise take you by surprise. I mean, there are a lot of them in these different domains, because in biology and medicine today, we're saying that you treat patients in different ways. If you're dealing with a genetic disease, it's self-evident you want genomic information because that's the dominant contributor. But for most heart diseases and the interventions with surgery and so on, the role of the genome is subsidiary there. So it's a completely different form of medicine, and the underpinning scientifically is described in different ways. So if you want to deal with the genomic diseases, you can obviously point at the molecular biology revolution that goes back to the discovery of DNA, but that's a long path that's already been trodden. What's different here is we're not just using data to make inferences in a statistical sense. We're trying to capture the molecular biology of you yourself. So if you have a particular genome with all its variants in it, they will code, for example, for proteins which could be unique to you and not, again, to the average person. And if you're going to do drug design on that, you have to know the individual structures. So it's building on all of this molecular biology and the quantification of protein structures, and then the computational component that's ubiquitous in all of this, the fact that we now have very powerful supercomputers that can run these calculations very quickly.
No, genes are not the blueprint for life. They knew exactly what the editors were doing, because in effect they were announcing the end of 80 years at least of misunderstanding the fundamentals of biology.
Dennis Noble is a guy who's often lauded as the first person to be able to have developed cell models of the heart, because the ones that are in these supercomputers today, being used in some forms of in silico trials, have that component that he developed. So that was, Hodgkin and Huxley's Nobel Prize in the 1950s was where they were able to write down models about sort of ion transport through membranes, and it's all built up from that point on. And I want to emphasize it's the digitization of the data and its integration into big computers, and that they can run really detailed simulations now fast, because you need to be able to see events before they occur, like a weather forecast, to make them actionable in the sense that I can then take a decision before something happens. The AI dimension raises a lot of issues to do with typically grabbing a lot of data from many people to build a large data set that's then used in an inference sense, so statistically, to say something about you based on the health states of a large population of other people. If you think about that for a moment, that isn't really personalized medicine. Trying to treat you on the basis of other people, and then it's going to depend incredibly strongly on the composition of that data set. And typically at the moment, that data set is amazingly homogeneous and largely with white male Caucasians in it. It doesn't reflect anything that's relevant to a personalized scenario. So you have to pay attention to those issues, or you will end up with massive bias in predictions. The models with digital twins are different because they use your data at all stages, not other people's data. They require models that are mechanistic and explanatory, but they use only your data. So at one fell swoop, everybody is on the same footing. They're not at risk of being, having bias applied to them and the predictions not being relevant. This is the key step in a digital twin approach. Each individual owns their own data. I'm talking futuristically now, right? Because if you adopt an AI approach, you tend to want to aggregate lots of people's data to make these large databases from which you infer how to treat you based on all these other people. Here I'm talking about you have your own data, like you have your own bank account. You control your data. This doesn't happen much today, but then you're empowered to use that data as you see fit, and you don't run the risk of having your data in some massive database that faces security breaches where everyone's data suddenly becomes public knowledge. So it's a completely different model, and that's what makes it very different. And it's really like what's happening now in climate modeling, where you want open systems so that everyone can look at where the Earth is developing, because it's relevant to individuals, governments and other bodies. Everyone should be able to have access, but in this case it's your own data. You can decide to join what I was calling an in silico clinical trial at no risk to yourself. Your avatars being the digital twin, you can offer that up to a clinical trial, and then you can be tested in a medically sound context to see whether your avatar is having deleterious effects brought about. Do you see? So it's kind of a very different model of risk and opportunity. And it does raise other questions, they're moral and ethical ones, about whether people want to know all of these pieces of information about themselves. I mean, the important part here is that medicine is always not going to be a completely objective science. It involves decisions and people, individuals, and how they want to deal with their own situation. And maybe to create all kinds of artworks or base your description of your body in terms of different forms of artwork, because visualization here is critical both for the medic and the patient. So one of the sayings is that I picked up in this meeting is data is the new pigment. For art work, you can use things that come out of these types of simulations, and they become very, very compelling descriptions that people will find make it easier to engage with what's underneath very technically sophisticated and complicated science. I think there's a wider question there, and that is that there's a bit of a divide between the traditional way in which life sciences and medicine are taught compared with the methods that I'm actually discussing that need to be brought into the subject. Because those methods are what we call mechanistic models, they're explanatory. They have a lot of detail and they're described by mathematics and equations that you have to solve on computers. Most life scientists and medics have no training in that area. So there is a substantial educational and cultural challenge there. The medics, I don't feel comfortable with the idea that they just rely on the experts who come from physical sciences and computer science telling them what to do. So the training and education does need to become more quantitative. But I think because we're moving into an ever more ubiquitous IT environment, students growing up, if they want to go into medicine, want to use advanced technology. So at schools and in early years in university, they need to be offered the opportunity to get access to this sort of technology. In a traditional medical education, they're not seeing it. So if they get into this very early and they get excited, they don't want to be thwarted by these traditional medical approaches, which will never help us make the predictions of a person's health, which we need in order to take actionable decisions on it.